So 31A through 31G are all included on that 31, right? That's correct, Your Honor. So these are just the designations of the individual clips. So 31A through 31G are admitted because they really have already been admitted. The court's recognizing them today for formal, well, as your designation. Just for the record, the court reporter will not be recording these clips. Understood, Your Honor. So the clip, the government's responsible for keeping that portion off the record. Very well, Your Honor. All right. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, there will be a rolling transcript, a scrolling transcript underneath the bar that runs across the screen as the clip is played. That, of course, that transcript is not the evidence. The audio is the evidence, as I've told you before. So you may proceed with playing 31A through 31G as you deem appropriate, and they're all admitted. Your Honor, I would like to now play the first excerpt that was recorded on October 5th, 2015. If we could go ahead? You may. Your Honor, may we ask the jury if they like that a little louder next time? Would you? Yes, please. There are sometimes bursts of loud noise, and that's the downside, but I do think we'll play it more loudly when we go through it next time. If we could start back again, and I'm going to ask to stop it at various points, but if we could start playing it with the volume up a little bit. Now, Miss Starr, who is the voice that said, "I'm Lady Red"? That's me. Who is the male that you're talking to in this recording? Frank White. Is there a third person there? Yeah. Is that the person that's referred there as D? Yes. Who is D? My ex-wife. Now the recording is noisy, isn't it? Yeah. Permission to briefly lead, Your Honor. Was the recording device positioned that clothing was sometimes rubbing against it? Yeah, clothing would rub against it. Thank you. Now you introduce yourself as Lady Red. Mm-hmm. Had you ever met Defendant Baxton before? No, I had not. Had you ever spoken to him? No. Do you know if he knew you as Lady Red? I don't. So you were going in to see him cold, right? Yes. Go ahead. Can you turn the volume up now? We'll try to turn it up more this time, Your Honor. Ours is already up. Max says it can be up. Your Honor, if we could just have a moment. We need to restart the trial director, unfortunately. This may be loud. Let's try it. You just said, "I went to see Starks"? Mm-hmm. Who is Starks? Starks had his own hood under Imperial. I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit? Starks had his own sub-hood under Imperial. That would make him a GFO, a sub-hood under Imperial. Did Nine Trey gangsters have hoods? No, Nine Trey is one that would never had a hood. But the other hoods have sub-hoods. Correct. And what is the word that's spelled variously? Shawanda? Shawangunk? Shawanda is a prison in New York. Is that where Starks is located? Yes. If we could continue. You mentioned Mikey B in that passage we just went through. Who is Mikey B? Mikey is a GF of the Ricket Hunter. And if we could continue to the end. And where was Mikey B located? Mikey B was Shawanda too. What about Juice? Juice is Attica. That's Attica State Prison in New York State? Yes. And these were individuals that you were going to visit? Yeah. I wasn't visiting Mikey. Okay, but to be clear here, some of what you will say in your conversations with the defendants on these recordings isn't necessarily true, right? Correct. Why is that? You have to keep persona, so you have to make it seem like something other than what it is. Okay, if you could play excerpt 31B. Now, Miss Starr, I have to ask, were you eating something at that point? I think so. Were you eating chips? I believe so. Does that work well with body recordings? No. Let's go back up to the top and break this down. If we could play the first few lines, please. Miss Starr, who is Hardbody? Hardbody is under Frank White. He is a low. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I said Hardbody is under Frank White. Do you know what rank he held? I believe he was a low. And to be clear here, Frank White is a Nine Trey gangster? Yes. When Defendant Baxton said, I might have to toss this bad news out, First of all, who does Bad News refer to? Bad News is a homie in North Carolina. Does Bad News go by any other names? I don't know. Do you know his government name? I do not. Okay. What does it mean for defendant Baxton, Frank White? What does it mean for him to toss somebody out? It means he'll kick him outside of the hood and he'll no longer be Nine Trey. Is that a bad thing for Bad News? Yeah. What is the reason that was being discussed about why defendant Baxton would have to throw this guy out? He was disrespecting him. I'm sorry, can we go on just a little bit more? When you said he was bringing in a lot of suckers, do you recall what you were referring to? I was referring to him bringing in any and everybody into blood. He was just giving people all different types of stain. Say that last bit again, please. He was just giving people all different types of stain. What does stain mean? Stain is the rank. So was he improperly giving? Was this guy Bad News improperly giving people rank in North Carolina? Yes. Objection, Your Honor. That was leading. We can strike the answer and you can rephrase it. What is your understanding of what Frank White believed that Bad News was doing? He was being disrespectful to Frank White, but Bad News was giving out ranks that weren't correct. Thank you. Let's play the rest of the clip. Could we now turn to Exhibit 31C? Now, if we could go back to the beginning and play the first line from James Baxton. I'm sorry, keep going. Now go to, I'm sorry, can we just go back to the beginning again and restart? This is my fault. Miss Starr, what was Mr. Baxton talking about here? He said he had 25 grams of dog food. Dog food is heroin. He said that dog food is heroin? Yes. And he was located in the New York Department of Corrections? Yes. Were you able to make out what he meant by the rest of that sentence? Something like, but that shit is for like, Spot, you know what I mean? No, I'm not. Okay, let's go on. What is your understanding of what he was talking about there? He wanted to send the dog food to North Carolina so that we could flip it and send him the money back. And when you used the word dog food there, you meant heroin? Yes. And flipping it refers to selling it? Yes. In North Carolina? Yes. What were you talking about in that last passage? That, in North Carolina, whatever, that they're taking pills or basically whatever comes out is what they want to try. Like if they hear on music that somebody is doing Molly, then people want to try Molly. So, and I didn't know nothing about selling heroin. So that's what I was saying. And what was defendant Baxton saying to your understanding? I'm not sure. I really can't understand it. Could we go to excerpt 31D, as in Delta? Now let's go back and start playing. There are some names that are mentioned there. Let me ask you about them. Mikey B, you've already mentioned, but remind me his affiliation. Mikey B is the GF for Ricket Hunter. Get closer to the microphone. Mikey B is the GF of a Ricket Hunter. HR? That's Hellraiser. He's the GF of East Gangster. Light? Light is Magoo. He's the GF of Nine Trey. SI? SI was the GF of Nine Trey also. Did the Nine Trey gangsters have two godfathers at the same time? Objection, Your Honor. Leading. It is. Rephrase. It calls for a yes or no answer, Your Honor. Well, yes, it's true. It suggests the answer also. Thank you. Was SI a godfather of the Nine Trey gangsters? Yes. Was defendant Gutierrez also a godfather of the Nine Trey gangsters? Yes. If we could continue. What is being talked about there? It's talking about SI. SI was the youngest to MB, brought home blood. How do you know that? It's in all the paperwork. Did that make SI particularly important? Yes. When it says the first original one that all the big homies loved, what's the big homies they refer to? All the GFs at that time, the original GFs. Let's go to 31E. Now, if we could start that excerpt again. What is being talked about here? He was talking about how there's like separation in Billy's because they don't Subhoods, they have different highs, and each high they claim they have their own line. So they'll separate, and they won't be one, like, group, and they go against each other. So that's, and he was saying that he hated that. And the word Billies is being used here. What does that refer to? Nine Trey. In that passage, there's a reference to a sister eBay or something like that. Do you know that person? I do not. And there's a reference to the phrase, real right. What does that mean? To be like in the books of UBN and real right? Defendant Baxton says something like, so when you see something wrong, you have the right to correct it. What does that mean? That means you have the right to say that it's wrong. Did that mean that did you understand that to mean that Defendant Baxton had the right to correct it? Objection to the form of the question. I'm sorry, say that again? Objection to the form of the question. He could ask what she understood that to mean. He's asking her in a way to make her, the form of the question is incorrect. Just ask what you mean. What? What she understood it to mean. Just ask her that. What did you understand the phrase, so when you see something wrong, you have the right to correct it? What did you understand that to mean? That he had the right to correct what was wrong? Moving on to excerpt 31F, as in Foxtrot. Now, before we go back through and take the excerpts, perhaps it would be helpful if you told us your understanding of what the subject of the conversation here is. S.I. and Magoo had got into it, and S.I. had tried to kick Magoo out and put Frank White there and put White in the GF spot. And Frank White was saying no, that Magoo was his brother, and he was going, whatever Magoo said. And he told S.I., fuck you. So let's play a portion. I'm just going to ask you for some words. Now, when Defendant Baxton is saying, that's my brother, to whom is he referring? Magoo. When he said, my brother got me upset right now with him, what did you understand that to mean? That he was mad at Magoo? Did you know from this conversation what he was upset about? After he told me, yeah, like I understood what he was mad about. What was he mad about? He was mad that they had gotten into it over S.I. and Magoo thing. Okay. And when he says, so when S did that, it's like my brother's in his seat. What does my brother's in his seat refer to? Magoo is in the chair, in his seat. And the word jacking gets used a lot. What do you understand that? Everybody believes it. If we could turn now to excerpt 31G. When you asked him, have you always been Billy? What did you mean? Have you always been Nine Trey? When he responds, always, besides blood, always, what does the beside blood always mean? Because when you become blood, you're blood before you're any set, so you're under the UBN. But he's always been in the set of Billy, Nine Trey. Then you use the phrase, Nine Trey paved the way. What's that? Nine Trey was the first hood under the UBN, so Nine Trey paved the way for every other hood to be started. And he responded, all day, every day, Nine Trey paved the way. Is that one of those acoustic things that you were telling us about? Yes. Now with permission, if I may approach the witness. You may. Miss Starr, what is this document? This is a kite I received from Frank White on our visit. Can we get an identifier? What exhibit number is that? 37A. When you say a kite, what does a kite refer to? A letter. And is that something that Frank White gave to you? Yes. Is that, in fact, a duplicate of what Frank White gave to you? Yes. Miss Starr, I presented you now with 3 photographs in a document. What are those items? This is a letter that Frank White wrote on my visit. And what is accompanying that letter? 3 pictures he took on the visit. Do you recognize the individual in those photographs? Yes. Your Honor, the government moves to admit exhibit, and I'm sorry, are they in substantially the same condition as you recall seeing them? Yes. Is that letter in substantially the same condition as it was when you received it from Frank White? Yes. Excuse me, Defendant Baxton? Your Honor, the government moves to admit Exhibit 37 and permission to publish. Any objection to 37? Not 37A, right? 37. 37 will be admitted. You said there's 3 photos. They're attached as part of 37? They're a part of, yes. Okay. Now that was 37A, just the digital version. That is correct, Your Honor. So it's 37A is admitted because 37 is admitted. Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Gilmore. Miss Starr. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm getting old. I think we knew who you meant. Miss Starr, can you read this document? Family, I never accepted the call. Dark, S.I., made against Goo. He's my brother for life like you all are. Continue to be all in together. I love Goo. Got Billy. Goo is still the chair. Mikey the co. Mikey stops the 7 hood. The subs remain at 5. Stay grown. Are you able to read the signature that's below that? Solemnly, it says grown and it says FW down there. And do you know FW to stand for something? Frank White. And I'm going to show you the other side. Would you please read that? Put your number in my phone, 347-470. Tell GL you visit me today, and I said to try to visit me tomorrow, and I send my grown, and to lock my number in my phone. Let me ask you a few questions about this document. Is this a document that was given to you by Defendant Baxton during your visit with him? Yes. He trusted you to give you this document? Yes. Why? Because I was Lady Red. I got high from 5th Street. What were you supposed to do for this document? I was supposed to give it to Goo and pass it around. Did you? I gave it to the FBI. And who is Goo? Magoo. Pedro Gutierrez. Thank you. And with regard to the text that appears on this page, you read Goo is still the chair? Yes. What does that mean? Magoo still has the chairman's seat. And you read Mikey the co? What does that mean? Mikey has the co-chairman's seat. Would you read again the lines after the Mikey the co? Stop the hood shit. What appears before the hood shit? Oh, stop the 7 hood shit. And what's the next line? The subs remain at 5. Do you understand? Do you have an understanding of what that might mean? Yeah, at one point in time, they were saying that they were going to have it where that hoods could have 7 subhoods instead of just 5. And he was saying that that wasn't happening, that it was remaining at 5 instead of 7. But you said Nine Trey didn't have any subhoods, right? Right. So this refers to what? To the other hoods. So this was Defendant Baxton commenting on how the other hood should be organized? Correct. Turning over to the other side of the document, can you explain what this refers to? He was telling me to tell GL, which is his wife, and give her my phone number and tell her to visit him tomorrow. And what does the lock number in my phone refer to? Means to save my number, for GL to save my number in her phone. Let the record reflect that I'm putting the 3 Polaroid-style photographs on the Elmo and showing them to the witness. Miss Starr, starting with the photo on the left, from the left to right, who's in that photo? And for the record, that's the one where the person in the middle is seated. Thank you, Your Honor. Me, Frank White, and D. And the photo in the middle with the person in the middle standing up with his hands in his pockets? Me, Frank White, and D. And the photo on the right with the person in the middle having his arms around you and D. Me, Frank White, and D. Miss Starr, would you describe for the jury what the background is behind this photograph? It's the visit. It's like the visitation place where we take photos. It's painted onto the wall, or there's something hung up there. Different prisons have different things. Most of the time, there's a painted picture on there to take pictures in front of. So this is something that happens inside the visiting area. Correct. And this is still inside the New York State Department of Corrections? Yes. All right. I know I'm tired. This might be a good stopping point. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our lunch break.